My terrifying story happened when I was about 16. I'm now almost 21. I've stayed at home only by myself for 2 days. It wasn't something unusual or scary at all, but that night I'll remember for the rest of my life. About 11 p.m., I'd been on my phone talking with my friend when I heard a strange noise outside. It was like someone or something hitting the bin. I thought that maybe it was the neighbor's cat. I told my friend about that, and she laughed and said that maybe it was a ghost. We started joking about that. About an hour later, we finished our conversation. I checked downstairs if all the doors are closed and decided to go to sleep. I brushed my teeth and turned off all the lights. When I was lying in bed, I realized I left my phone downstairs and I had to bring it back. When I got down from the staircase, I looked at the big windows in the living room and froze in fear. In the window, I saw a black silhouette of a human just standing on the patio, staring right into the house. I was so scared that I couldn't even move. After a while, I sprinted to the kitchen, grabbed the phone, and called my uncle. He's a police officer and lives at the same streets, and I was terrified that I only whispered to him, "Someone's standing on the patio." When my uncle arrived, the men on the patio saw a car and began to take off. My uncle hadn't managed to catch him. Then he came into my house and tried to calm me down because I've immediately bursted into tears when I saw him. That night, my uncle stayed at my house and told my aunt to take care of me in their house. Just a few days later, when my parents came home, I got a call from my uncle who told me that just a day ago there was a man standing on the patio of his neighbor's house and the police caught him. He said also that supposedly this man is insane because he kept saying, "I can see you," and laughed the entire time. Well, after several years, I'm still thinking what would happen if I hadn't come downstairs.
My dad and I live together in our own multi-family home in Germany. My dad has a serious lung condition. His lungs produce and trap an excessive amount of mucus. The trapped amount is huge and keeps his lungs from working correctly. It's pretty normal that he has to be picked up by an ambulance every 2 to 3 weeks because he can't breathe anymore. Last week, it was that time of the month. He couldn't breathe. I called an ambulance and he was brought to the closest hospital. Pretty normal for me because this happened at least 10 times in the last 6 months. So I went to bed after he got picked up on a Tuesday. I went to work the next morning and got a text from him that he has to stay for at least 2 more days, so approximately till Friday. Wednesday evening, I get home from work and played as much Rogue Company when someone suddenly rang the doorbell. That's unusual because we never have unannounced visitors. I walked to the door and was about to press the door buzzer to open the main door when I heard, I believe, more than one voice directly in front of my door, so that someone just got past the main door, which was weird. I asked in German, "Hello, who is it?" And there was silence for 3 seconds. Then a person who sounds like my father but at the same time doesn't sound like my father answers, "Micah, it's me. I forgot my keys. Open the door." I thought, okay, in that case. Wait a minute. My dad never calls me Micah, only Mickey. And there was the sarcastic tone in that voice. I didn't trust the situation, and I called my father on his phone. If the person in the front of my door was my father, his phone should ring, right? It didn't. My father answered, and as I suspected, he was still in the hospital. Meanwhile, the 2 persons on the other side of the door heard my phone call and started kicking my door. "Let me in, Micah, it's your daddy. Let me in." Thank God the door was reinforced. After I threatened them with calling the police and having a huge knife in my hand, they left. I heard their footsteps running down the staircase. I rushed to a window facing the street to check if I can see a car or a license plate, but they were gone, just a few footsteps in the distance. They never came back, and what's weird is that they knew my name and that my father wasn't home despite his car standing in the driveway. Stuff was hitting the fan when a buddy of mine actually reported something similar. We called the police, but an investigation is currently in progress. Around every start of the summer, me and my family go on a 3-week vacation around the US. It's always a blast, and I have very fond memories of the trips. but I will always be more alert on them next time. We were more than halfway done with our vacation, so we had to head home. That meant that we had to go through the whole state of Texas. My dad wanted to drive through the night instead of stopping, so I got some rest. I woke up at around the middle of the night and noticed the car had stopped moving. I sleepily rose from where I was sitting and looked out of the dash window. I saw my dad with a random dude under the hood. I thought, no big deal, until something caught my eye. There was a ditch beside the road, and in that ditch, barely, just barely, I could see the top of a couple of dudes holding weapons of various types. My blood ran cold, but I had to warn my father because he hadn't seen them yet, and he had his back turned to them. I thought as quickly as I could and kicked my door open and yelled, "Hey Dad, the gun fell out of the holder and I don't want to touch it." This is a lie, of course, as we don't own a gun, and both the man and my dad looked confused. I waved for my dad to come to where I was. I then explained the situation, and for the first time in my life, he actually looked terrified. He said to the man that I'm going to move the car closer. The man said that's fine, and we both jumped in. My dad immediately floored it down the road. We did notice a car's headlights in our back window, but after a while it disappeared. We drove the rest of the night, and into the morning, we weren't tired at all. My mom then woke up and we had fun, but kept a lookout. We made it home safe, and I did a little research in the area. It turned out that a few months before, a couple were actually kidnapped and are currently still missing in that area of Texas. I have no idea if what happened to those poor people could have happened to my father and our family if I didn't see those men.
I was driving home from a long day's work. I was tired. It was close to midnight, and the roads were empty, all of which tempted me to drive really fast. After about half an hour of uninterrupted driving, I had to suddenly apply the brakes and stop. A woman, around mid-20s, was standing in the middle of the road. After a few seconds, she started approaching my car. When she was just outside my car door, she asked, "Excuse me, my car ran out of fuel and my phone is also dead. The next gas station is 5 miles away. Can you please drop me there, sir?" I was alarmed. I hesitated for a moment. A lot of things went inside my head. After a few moments, I brushed those thoughts off and told her to get in. She got in, and I started the car. She wasn't saying anything, and it was a bit awkward. I tried to start a conversation with her by asking her name, where she works, etc. She looked at me, but did not answer a single question of mine. Well, that is rude, I thought. Then, she suddenly said, "I must say you're pretty reckless. You're really reckless. You let me in your car in the middle of the night without having a second thought. Don't you watch those horror movies where a stranded stranger gets a lift, then it turns out that the stranger is an evil spirit?" This time I didn't say anything. If only she knew.